Affairs Center's interview series. Today we are in conversation with Mr. Sanjay Sahai, who is a retired IPS officer. Mr. Sahai joined the Karnataka cadre in 1989. He took voluntary retirement in the year 2020. Sir, welcome to the interview series.
Thank you.
We would like to ask you, the first question is, you joined in the 90s and then you retired recently in 2020. How has been your experience? How has the shift in policing in Karnataka over the years?
First and foremost, I thank PSC for onboarding me as an advisor, and it will be extremely gratifying because there are lots of areas I could not attend when I was a practicing police officer and a bureaucrat. And I think with the nature of expertise which PSC has, and all of you that you have brought to the table, I think it will be an ideal platform to use my inherent capabilities for the better cause of good governance. Now coming back to your question that I joined in 1989, I was in the police till 2020, how these 31 years have been transformative and also from the policing point of view radically different in the 90s to when I left the police in 2020. I started with a very conventional style of policing in the National Police Academy. We were trained in a model police station. So from that model police station to coming to Karnataka, and as a probationer, I was in Belgaum. So there I was forced to handle 2 assembly elections.
Okay.
As a probationer, we generally try and avoid actual practical situations, which is generally handled by the district superintendent, who is supposedly the mentor and guide to that particular probationer. But somehow my SP thought that I'll be able to handle the parliamentary elections. In 1991, I had handled 2 parliamentary constituencies of Belgaum and Chikori. Okay, then I went back to the National Police Academy. I did my second part of the training, came back to Karnataka, and lo and behold, I landed in a place called Puttur in Dakshin Kannada. And that was the year we had the Babri Masjid demolitions. And after that, there was a huge amount of law and order problems. And in Karnataka, I think the worst affected was Dakshin Kannada district. There was also a situation where me and another IAS officer, we saved our life in Pinangli. So it was practically a situation where there was no communication. You were to battle with completely restless crowd, and the support systems were completely crude and rudimentary compared to what it is today. And the only mode of communication was your police wireless. So that is from where I started, moved ahead. I have done 3 districts of Chamarajanagar, Raichur and Mandya. And Chamarajanagar at the time where Virappan was there, and all of us know as to what the situation was. Then I handled Kaveri riots in Mandya. And Mandya is a hotbed of politics, is not a very easy district to handle. As also in Raichur, the erstwhile Raichur, before it got subdivided or it got bifurcated into Koppal and Raichur, I think one end to the other end of the district was nearly 230 kilometers. And I remember of a day where I travelled 712 kilometers in my district in one single day in around 20 hours. The mechanics of policing was totally different, even if you take away the technology and the communication part of it. We used to have dacoities, we used to have road hold-ups, and we used to have lots of other crimes and protests, which you don't find today, like the Dalit Sanghar Samiti. And people are literally taking over large tracts of land by the influence which they wield in that particular society and community. And we also have this Prevention of Atrocity on SCSC Act. There are a large number of cases which used to get registered. So from there it went on, and by the time I became a DIG and then an IG, and then I was in Davangere as the range head. So things had dramatically changed. All these protests of the nature which we see, I think it was in the year 1990, the Kaveri protests in Bangalore, and lots of other things which happened, and those things we don't see today. Might be the total dynamics has completely changed, our thought processes have changed, our purpose has changed, and the general governance has also changed, and their modalities of the interface between police and the civil administration, I think that has also changed. And somewhere around 2005 and all that, So this whole concept of technology, management, mid-career training programs, evaluation at a different level, SDGs, so that percolated inside the police also, and that made its impact. Between 2009 and 2011, I gave the first Sarkari ERP to this country, which is known as Police ID. So this has been a transformational change. I, for one, as a human being, as a police officer, as a professional, it has been a completely transformative journey for me. And you can make out of college with a history post-graduation and training in police by the National Police Academy to what I am today. I think you can make out the transformation.
Yes.
So that has been, in short, my journey.
So my next question is, you are from a non-technology background, but while you are working in the Karnataka Police, you have developed this ERP software and you brought in other technological interventions. How did your focus shift into focusing on the technology-related aspects while you were working in the Karnataka Police?
I got a chance to work with United Nations in the year 2000.
Okay.
When I was to go to United Nations, they used to conduct a test of some level of technology at a very cursory level. And I was not conversant at that level also. So I did whatever I could do, and I reached there, and I was made the head of recruitment, chief of recruitment and selection for the Kosovo Police Service. It was a desk job. We did not want to get into the rough and tumble of policing in an unknown area. So I was heading that particular organization, and there I realized that the future of policing, future of governance, and might be the future of mankind is technology. And that would be around somewhere mid-May or something. Mid-May 2000. From mid-May 2000 till today, I don't think there has been a single day where I'm not interested in technology to the fullest as I could. And starting from there where I could not differentiate between save and save as on a Word document, I became one of the most prominent faces of technology in government and might be now even outside of government in variety of areas. So I was convinced of the fact that technology is the only way out. I was handicapped in technology. My enablement in technology has happened the hard way. Coming back from United Nations, we started the first cybercrime police station. In the year 2008 or 9, my boss thought I knew technology because most of the time I used to do Photoshop and other things. Somehow he felt that I'm very conversant in technology. Having made the head of computerization of Karnataka Police, I realized that my capability of technology and what is required at an enterprise level are two radically different animals. So I had to graduate, I did not have a way out, and it has been a struggle of nearly 27 months where my transition happened from a technology user to a technology enterprise leader and a capability to bring digital transformation even in an area like policing, and also develop a capability to ride roughshod and make it happen. And I still remember, I think one of the pictures of mine which used to be circulated at that point in time was a robo sort of a guy with my face and with a gun in his hand, either police ID or. So that is the level of resistance which we have against technology in governance, in policing, and sometimes in a very prominent business school, the director said, how have we been able to implement technology in police? I am not able to implement technology with my faculty members. And this is what a director of a very well-known business school has said. So I thought that there is no other way out. This is the only way your utility remains beyond time and space, beyond police, beyond governance, in the public domain. And also that gives me a tool and a very important differentiator and also a game-changing capability which no other police officer will have. And that helped me all throughout. So from the first police station, we went into ERP, we delivered ERP, I got into cyber security, I got into disruptive technologies, I got into professional public speaking. And today is the 2000th day of a post which I write every day. So today I will be writing daily post 2000. I started on 26th of September 2016. Today is the 2000th day. And this is the day of giving an interview to you regarding how I switched sides from policing or made all my capabilities and all my competencies become a part of one integrated world. Since the year 2000, whatever I have gained, I have added to my capabilities that are not possible.
So, were those the reasons that like forced you to take the voluntary retirement, or why did you decide to take voluntary retirement from Karnataka?
I invested nearly 20 years of my life while being in police service, while doing policing for 12 to 14 hours, still doing technology, delivering something humongous as an ERP without having resources. I gave whatever I could to the government, and there are a large number of softwares and technology interventions which would remain in the government for decades to come. I built up capabilities which was above and beyond which a government department can use on a regular basis. The second fear which I carried all throughout my career was after 61. So once you retire at 60 years of age, and even if you try to get into a new area, so people will say you have retired and that is why you are coming to that particular area. So this is also to prove my commitment to technology, and also that I am there for good. There is no plan B, and I will make a success out of technology. Might be all these factors combined. Government certainly was not able to consume the quantum of technology, and might be the environment of technology upgradation and technology intervention which is happening with a completely changed technology environment. I think it might still take a couple of years for the government to come to that particular level. And in the last 2 years after I left the government, might be it was nearly the same time COVID arrived and I moved out of the government in lockdown. Correct. These 2 years have transformed the world into a completely digitally enabled age, which we can call as the digital immersion age. And I think I'm getting more and more relevant with every passing day. And now getting associated with the Public Affairs Center. Now I think all of us are realizing how much of technology is required in the government. And as far as my association, my company's association with PSC is concerned, I think we bring both complementary and supplementary capabilities. And I also bring a subset of governance, public administration, management, technology, ingrained in one person who has delivered in all these areas.
Okay. So, how has the transformation been like? You worked in the Karnataka Police and then you founded a technology company. So, how has the transformation been like in these 2 years?
I think the transformation is the most difficult part. That you are at the senior levels in government, senior levels in the police, and after that you become an entrepreneur. People generally go 23, 24 years of age. So bring down your mental level to that of an entrepreneur and see the world from an entrepreneur's eye with none of the trappings of power and none of those comforts which generally come to the bureaucrats, and then take the world on your own strength and own capability. Even starting a private limited company in this country is not a job. And my company primarily believes in a very new concept, and bringing that concept to reality in a very tangible way and making business out of it has been a good challenge.
Okay.
So, TechCon Pro is a technology consultancy aggregator. We claim it to be the first in the world.
Okay.
So, we are an aggregator which does not get into single transactions.
Okay.
We are an aggregator of technologists who have the capability and the expertise to give you consultancy, to create projects, to execute projects.
Okay.
Correct. So this is a model of a gig economy. There is a very small baby type of an Amazon, but it deals with much humongous areas of technology and takes upon itself the complete responsibility from the idea to the delivery.
Okay.
And the band of 32 technologists available with me, I think that would go down as the best band of technologies available in the public domain by any organization in this country.
Okay, so 32 people are working with you full time?
No, 32 people are not working full time. We work on a gig economy model.
Okay, keep working.
So I induct them based on their professional competence and their expertise.
Okay.
We pick up people through a tool which we call as the data matrix.
Okay.
That data matrix is primarily a very sophisticated version of a CV.
Okay.
And we take only relevant expertise, only the expertise which you have practiced in the last 5 years, only that is relevant for us. All your certifications which are relevant, and your capability on software tools and on the projects. So on those capabilities, we pick you up. For TechCon Pro, we work on project-to-project basis, and we are here to stitch technology solution for real-life problems. So product, services, process, everything is known. But you don't have that sutradhar, you don't have that master chef who can create that Hyderabadi biryani. So we want to be that master chef who can create any technology solution for any real life issue, management issue, business issue, governance issue. We don't want to be that repository of knowledge and expertise, and we intend to have a turnaround time which is very short.
Okay.
So if we are supposed to file a bid in the government, we should be in a position to do it in, say, a max of 7 days. Correct. In the very same manner, we do it with a corporate enterprise, and our URL and our main differentiator is that we are a technology solution. We are not a reseller, we are not a trader, we are not an intermediary.
So, sir, my final question is, how do you think you can contribute to PAC, like as a member of Public Affairs Center? How do you think you can?
As an advisor to PAC, I think it seems to be the most ideal synthesis which I could imagine of. So you bring governance capabilities, you bring management tools, if I may call so, and you also bring experience and expertise and human resources who have been working with you for the last 24, 26 years. So that capability is already with you. I speak in a language as far as my governance and policing capabilities, SDGs, and my international experience with the United Nations RISE. So we speak of the same language, we believe in the same purpose, we have the same vision. You have capabilities to some level. On the technology side, the capabilities are missing. Without the technologies, I don't think the governance can happen. So I bring a technology capability. I have been a professional public speaker for last nearly 11 years. I would have delivered not less than 1,000 lectures. So for 1,000 lectures and 2,000 daily posts, you can well understand the quantum of reading and also getting into field situations, delivering. I'm a firm believer in experiential learning. I'm also a firm believer in a subset of what I call as the academician practitioner model. So the academician feeds into the practitioner gets into experiential learning or execution and feeds back to the academician. So I am at core of my heart, I am a practitioner. But calling of my life is teaching and academics. So it fills in a very neat cycle which I have practiced for the last 11, 12 years. And I can talk your language, I can talk the technologist language, I can also talk the product language, the OEM language, the overall business scenario language. I can bring management to governance and take governance to management and give you the underlay of the same organizational principles on which an MNC also works, an international organization also works, an NGO works, and a government department works. And today we are living in an age of aggregation and collaboration. And if these two things PSC does, I am convinced of the fact that we will graduate to the next level in a very short period of time, and having invested so much of energy, purpose, literally your life into this organization, it is high time that we become the disruptive game changers of governance in this country.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for
Thanks a
your
lot.
time.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for